Welcome to Tombstone Tuesday, everyone. I'm your host, Tui Snider, and Tombstone Tuesdays, this is the show for people who love historic cemeteries and love exploring them. Now, as you can see, my guest today is going to be David Kravetz. We are going to be talking about quirky graveyards and tombstones, so it's going to be a lot of fun. But before I get to that, first of all, I have a couple of announcements. I wanted to point out this lovely, beautiful scarf that I'm wearing that my sister-in-law, Patty, hand knit for me. And I absolutely love it because it is a little bit chilly in here where I do these shows. And actually, I like the chilly weather and I love wearing scarves. And I admire anybody who has learned how to knit because when I was growing up, I learned how my mom, lots of people like their mom or their aunt or somebody teaches them how to knit. Maybe you know how to knit. Let me know. Who taught you? Here's what my mom taught me. She taught me how to weave wheat. Yes, that may not seem practical to you. I mean, we can't just go to Hobby Lobby and grab a sheaf of wheat. But I grew up by a wheat field, so it sort of made sense in my case. Now in later life, it's like, I can't knit, but if you ever were stranded on a desert island and you need someone to weave a basket, I'm your gal, so there you are. Now, before I bring David on, and speaking of fashion, I want to go ahead and talk about my sponsor for this week. Here we are, this week's sponsor, if I can get him there. Yes, this week's sponsor. We have Nemo New American Shape. These are some corsets from, I think this is from 1909 or 1910. Now what cracks me up about this is it says there is a Nemo for every figure, but from what I can see in that photo, pretty much every one of those ladies has the same exact figure. Whatever. The real supporters here, of course, are my Patreon supporters. And I am talking about, well, let me bring them up so you can see their names. My Patreon supporters, I have Anne, Bob, Connie, Envy, Julie, Margaret, Hugh, Mikhail, Naomi, Scott, Ghost Cat, Ian, Jessica, Peter, Sarah, Rachel, and I just love that someone named Tui, who is no relation to me, is one of my Patreon supporters. So, love you guys. And of course, some of my Patreons that when they support a certain amount, that I send them a historic cemetery postcard. It's hard to get the letter every month. I just sent some out. This is one of the ones I just sent out. It's a cherub over at Davidson Cemetery. Alrighty, now the next announcement I have for us today is I have, of course, our weekly cemetery photos of the week. And these come from people who are on my weekly Sunday newsletter. I love the photos that they share. And these photos today come from a guy named Scott E. Wise. Now, I need to tell you that he also has a podcast. It's on Fridays at 9 p.m. So check it out. It's Paranormal Gateway Paratalk Podcast. If you're on Facebook right now, go check it out. Or if you're watching this on YouTube, go check it out. Like and subscribe. It's a new show. So I just learned about it too. I'll be checking it out this Friday. Now, the photos that Scott sent us are from Centralia, Pennsylvania. And let me just tell you a little bit about it. It's pretty fascinating. Centralia is in the anthracite coal region of the Appalachian Mountains. And from the 1800s on, it was a thriving coal mining town. However, this all changed in 1962. That's when some local firefighters, they decided, hey, let's get things cleaned up for Memorial Day weekend. Let's burn up the town landfill. That seemed like a good idea. They had good intentions at the time. But unfortunately, as you can see there, when you look at this photo, you think, oh, hey, maybe that's some fog. Well, it is not. There's a coal seam that runs under the town of Centralia. It caught fire, and they were not able to put out the fire. I mean, from 1962 until this day, there is smoke emanating from the ground there. Here's another photo I found, and this one's really creepy with that skeleton in the foreground. And I should mention that this creepy one, I included it because it's just a reminder of how dangerous these fumes are too. And that's what killed the town. People had to move away. I think as of 2017, from one website I read, there are only 5 people still living there. Everybody else had to move away. Meanwhile, at the rate that that fire is burning, it could burn for over 250 more years. Isn't that crazy? Now, I never saw the movie Silent Hill, nor did I ever play the video game that is related to it, and I don't know how that all works out, that whole universe. However, while researching Centralia, I did learn that the screenwriter for Silent Hill, a guy named Roger Avery, he used the town of Centralia, Pennsylvania as his inspiration. I guess it must be a misty, creepy place. And he said that when he was a little kid, his dad worked as a mining engineer, and he used to tell him stories, eerie stories about Centralia, where there were these toxic gases released from a continual fire. So I've never read them, saw that movie, as I said, but apparently it relates. All right, so the photos that Scott sent come to us from St. Ignatius Cemetery. This is affiliated with the Catholic Church. However, being a coal mining town, there were all immigrants, a lot of European immigrants from all over came and worked there and, of course, lived there and died there. When you go into St. Ignatius, there's a kind of a brick grotto there. It looks kind of neat. And you can just tell how pretty it is. Got the trees in the background. There's some Victorian era headstones. It's really interesting, I thought. But what really grabbed my eye were these. Here's a series of some headstones that they have the Eastern Orthodox cross on them, which is also known as a Byzantine, Greek, or Russian cross. Now, I was really staring at these, trying to figure out, are these Greek? Are they Russian? I noticed the Greek word on there, Theotokos or Theotokos. That's what comes from, I should say, when you do a lot of research by reading, when it comes to say the words out loud, you don't always know how to pronunciate them properly. Like. So yeah, but I do know that that word Theotokos, however you say it, is Greek for Mother of God, which means Virgin Mary. So apparently there were some Greek Orthodox graves there. Here's another one with that Eastern Orthodox cross on them. I found this one really touching. Here it is, and he's a veteran, so he has a military marker down there as well. But how interesting, can you see on the right, I showed the close-up that Scott sent. It's a little truck with coal in it, so I guess to indicate that, what he did for a living. Now, if you were watching the show last week, you might notice that the Eastern Orthodox cross came up as well, and we didn't really get into it, but I did relate the tale of how, when I was writing my book, Understanding Cemetery Symbols, my parents and Larry, my husband, and I, we went to this amazing monastery, Greek monastery in Arizona, where they had us. Well, when you visit religious sites, quite often you need to make sure you were wearing a long skirt and don't show too much skin. And so we thought we had dressed as quite modestly, but we hadn't. They still added layers to us. So I included the photo on the right so you can see the extra layers they added to us. And it was like 95 degrees that day, but luckily they had clothes for us to wear. Now, in my book, Understanding Cemetery Symbols, I thought, hey, I'm going to have a little chapter about crosses. That is when I learned that there are over 300 different types of crosses, and to top it off, each cross can have several different names. So that cross we see in the middle there, sometimes it's called an Eastern Orthodox cross, sometimes it's called Byzantine, sometimes it's a Greek Orthodox, sometimes it's a Russian cross. But when you hear that, they're all talking about that same style of cross. And I've actually been working on a project for a while that is a photo book with fairly common cemetery crosses, a little of their history, the names about them. But as you can see, and I'm not going to have all 300 crosses in there, but I will have quite a few. And I thought it was going to be a small project, but like so many projects, it's just continued on. So while I was at that Greek monastery, I did go up to a monk and I politely introduced myself, and I was going to ask him to explain what the cross, why, it has 3 bars on it, what they signify, why the one tilts. And as I related last week, the first person I asked had taken a vow of silence. So it took me a while to realize, oh, that was not the person I asked. But eventually I did find somebody who was kind enough to explain some things to us. And so they told me the top bar symbolizes the sign that was hung above the head of Christ. You'll see the INRI. And I like this photo from Scott because you can kind of see the little scroll up there, and that's where that's what the top bar is for. So Jesus of Nazareth, King of the Jews. The next bar down, well, that's where Christ's hands were nailed, as you can see. And then that lowest bar, that's actually a footrest, which, gee, thinking of comfort at that point, you're like, it's the whole object of the cross, not to be comfortable, but as interesting. And according to the monk and other who I spoke with, and also research I've done subsequently, it's slanted to be a symbolic way of expressing that the wise thief, how when Christ was crucified, there was 2 criminals on either side. One of them repented. And so that's why his side tilts upward. It's like one going up. And the other side is slants down, and that's because, well, he is going to hell. So I wanted to thank Scott again for those wonderful photos. And once again, everybody, make sure you check out his Facebook and YouTube channel. He seems like a really interesting guy, and wow, he really opened up some interesting history to me. Next up, we have our book of the week. And here it is. Let me grab it. It's always a little confusing looking. It is a book by our guest, in fact, David Kravetz. I chose his book, Quirky and Offbeat Roadside Attractions. Now, as far as I know, he has 3 books out. I have 2 of them in paperback. I have all 3 at Kindle. They are wonderful books if you love to travel, which I do. And I'm just kind of, it's hard to, if you can see, he's got great photos in here in color. I'm going to have to get better at this. It's just full of them. It's such a fun book. So, obviously, I had to have him be our guest of the week. David C. Kravetz. I'm going to read his bio and then just bring him on in here. So, here we go. I have to say, I actually met David through Twitter. I don't know how many years ago now, or maybe even 10, 8, I don't know. It's been a while. But David and I, we share a love of the offbeat and overlooked. And he's going to be sharing some really quirky, fun cemetery photos today. And we met on Twitter. We've met in person a couple times too. Like earlier last year, thanks to David, I got to take a swamp boat tour. So I will just read his bio now and then bring him in. So David Kravetz, 64, lives in Lexington, Kentucky, and is the owner and creative mind behind Sumo Flam Productions, where he works with .coms, writes blogs, and does nature and travel photography. He also currently manages the TV and movie databases for comicbook.com and popculture.com, part of the Viacom CBS family. David is a freelance travelographer and focuses on the normal, the wacky, the wonderful, and the quirky things of this wide world. His popular travel blog, you guys really ought to check it out. It's called Less Beaten Paths. And let me see if I can bring that up for you too. And he has nearly 400 posts about offbeat and backroads travel and lots of great photos, I must tell you. Among the places David visits are unique cemeteries, graves, and more. He is oft-times heard saying, "There's the dead center of town," as he passes cemeteries on his road trips around America. And I must tell you, he loves puns. He's very witty, so I always look forward to conversation. You have to be on your toes when you're chatting with him. David also has sites that present photography of the world as he sees it. Sumo Flam, as he is known, that's a nickname, to thousands of friends and followers around the world, has a passion for traveling, and he's been to all 50 of the states in the U.S., as well as 5 provinces in Canada, numerous states in Mexico, the Philippines, China, Korea. He is very well traveled. David also lived in Japan for 6 years, and I'm so impressed by the fact that he is fluent in Japanese. He's the father of 5, and he has 10 grandchildren who call him Gramps. He will celebrate his 42nd anniversary to his sweetheart in July of 2021, and he will always admit that he truly married up. So, welcome to the show, David. How are you?
I am awesome, but I'm getting better.
Ha ha ha. Yes, that is his mantra. I got to tell you, I've heard him say that, and I just think that is a really wonderful mantra, essentially.
But there's always room for improvement, so that's why I'm getting better.
I like that. That's true. We're constantly, life's a ongoing thing. We never just, you hit one goal and you just keep going. I like that.
Exactly.
I admire your attitude. Well, I'm just going to start bringing up some of these cool photos because I'm looking forward to them. Oops. Let's see here. If I can hit the right button. Ha! Now, I love this. Delight Cemetery? Well, where was this? And that is just such a great name. I want to go there.
Well, actually, I was on a return home from Texas. Actually, had seen you a couple days before I hit this place on our way back to Kentucky, and I was driving through Delight, Arkansas, because of the name. I like to go to unique town names, but Delight is also the birthplace of Glenn Campbell.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Wow.
He's not a Wichita lineman. He's a Delight. But
So really, it was just named after a town. I see. So it wasn't just for some reason that someone just wanted to have it called Delight. I see. That's interesting.
right.
Go ahead.
And so as I pulled into Delight, we saw Delight and saw Delight Cemetery as well. And so, because it's a unique name, I stopped and took a picture of the sign. That's
Yeah.
which is what I like to do. If I see a unique name, anything.
See, I love that about you. You are a good example. People say, like, oh, I want to be more mindful in life. Well, then just start engaging with the world around you and you just really live it. I think that's just a wonderful thing. It's like, okay, stop. Take a picture of the cool thing. And nowadays, with social media, you can share it. Now, here's
Yep.
another one of the ones you found. Cloudy? Was there a town named Cloudy, or how'd you get Cloudy?
Well, that one was one I had. I was in Oklahoma. I was going to be traveling to Oklahoma, and I was looking for unique. I have a goal when I travel. My goal is to find at least one or two unique, funky, quirky name towns.
Yeah.
Get pictures. My first book was all about quirky and unique name towns,
Yeah.
and I've got enough now for a second book. But
Oh, yeah.
I found the name Cloudy in eastern Oklahoma, and trust me, it's not one that's off the main drag. It's really on a back road, and
Oh, uh-huh.
I had to drive almost 15 miles on basically a narrow 2-lane to get up to Cloudy, so I could get a picture of Cloudy. I was hoping it was going to be sunny and cloudy when I got there,
That's
but
what I was thinking. It'd be great if it were sunny and cloudy.
it was cloudy and cloudy. But as I got into Cloudy, there was this sign, Cloudy Cemetery, and so like the
And they misspelled cemetery. That's always, I always get a kick out of it when they misspell cemetery and stick an A in it instead of an E.
and this was an old sign.
Yeah, it looks very beat up, like maybe it's been shot at a few times.
Well, I wouldn't doubt it up there where that was. But so
Interesting.
I thought it was fun to find a Cloudy Cemetery.
I really want to visit this one, though. It says Fairy Cemetery. That is just whimsical sounding.
This one was another one that was a surprise to me. I was near Hico, Texas, and Hico is down south of Waco and all that area. And I found on the map that right off of the highway, about 10 miles, is the town of Ferry, or, a dot on the map that said Ferry.
Yeah.
So I wanted to go see what was in Ferry. And it turns out, like many small towns are named after the church that's there. And there was the Ferry Baptist Church. I didn't realize all the ferries were Baptist.
Yeah.
But as I passed the Ferry Baptist Church, voila, there was the Ferry Cemetery. So if you're wondering where ferries are buried, they're all there in Texas at the Ferry Cemetery.
Yeah. It's like a Peter Pan reference in there, I'm sure. joke to be made.
But
Right.
it was gated off, so I couldn't even go in there to see if there was any actual ferries
Yeah.
buried there.
Well, here we go. How about this guy, William Henry Roberts, aka Billy the Kid? What's the story here?
Now, see, this one's one of those unique ones, okay?
Mhm.
He's one of the rare guys that Billy the Kid seems to have two two graves, and there seems to have been two Billy the Kids. Okay,
Oh.
and this one is also near Hiko. This is in Hamilton, Texas.
Uh-huh.
And it's right off the highway. So, I mean, you can pull right off the highway and see the grave marker there. And he claimed that he was Billy the Kid. And
there's a few Jesse Jameses as well. So was it that kind of thing, or did they actually think there were two guys who called themselves that?
Well, no, this guy claimed that they thought he was dead and had died in New Mexico, but he said that he didn't and that he continued to live under an assumed name, but so that they wouldn't come get him. And so the people in that area in Hamilton all believe and promote the fact that this is the hometown of Billy the Kid. They've got a statue, they got a little museum, etc. However, the quote-unquote official one, which I wanted to get a picture of on a trip that I took last year, but we
Where's
got there.
That one?
It's in Fort Sumner, New Mexico. And
gotcha. Yeah, okay.
I got there way too late in the evening to get a picture of his quote-unquote official grave, okay?
Yeah. Well, I wanted to point out, I like the grave goods on there where people have tied bandanas around his grave. Now, I've seen that on the graves of cattle drivers before, like Oliver Loving, Bose Icard, cowboys. So I thought that was interesting to see that on here as well, amongst other items they have.
Rocks and all those other things up on
those are grave goods. I see a can of Budweiser and pennies and stuff. Yeah, interesting. Interesting indeed. So, well, I hope you get a chance to get a picture of the other Billy the Kid sometime, but I need to go down there. It's been on my list to see this particular grave for a while.
It's not too far from you.
No, it's definitely doable. It's on my Texas to-do list for sure. I have a big one. Now, how about this one? I love this one.
Okay, well, I included and threw this one in because it's not really a grave, but it kind of looks like one.
Yeah, a monument, like a cenotaph, sure.
It's a monument. It's in Riverside, Iowa, and right behind it, they actually have a Star Trek space,
like a museum.
There's a museum there, but there's a Star Trek. I want to call it a spaceship, but it's not a spaceship. You know what I mean?
Oh, a replica of the Enterprise?
No, it's not the Enterprise. It's the USS Riverside.
Oh, okay. Well, hey, I want to show this comment we got. Stephen Malone, my fourth great-grandfather helped found Heiko. I wondered if it was Heiko. They have a museum up that way. Bill always claimed to be the kid.
Yep, that's right.
Oh, that's really neat. Very cool. Thanks for sharing that. And thanks for watching, Steve.
And there is actually a funky little statue of him in downtown Heiko. I'm going to pronounce it correct for Stephen here. So anyway, I came across this one, and ironically, in I want to say Nebraska. I can't remember exactly where it was now, but they've now made one of my mind is blank. The one that Kate Milgrew did when she was in. They have a future birthplace of hers.
Oh, all right.
I think it's in Nebraska somewhere now.
That's neat.
It's kind of a unique little monument. It does have a date on it and everything, so it kind of looks like a gravestone or a cemetery.
It does. A cenotaph or monument of some sort. I would call it a monument. Pretty nifty. These are just in no particular order. I just went ahead. You sent me cool photos. I just put them in. This is just a sweet photo with the wild flowers, and I always tell people that I think cemeteries are living libraries, and one of the reasons is you have a lot of gorgeous plants. Anyway, this is a very pretty picture.
Well, this is in the Lexington Cemetery here in Kentucky. Okay, now the Lexington Cemetery is really historic. Mm-hmm. It is where Henry Clay is buried. Wow. And there's a few others. There's a giant monument of Henry Clay. I mean, it's like 70 feet tall.
Wow.
But there's also a number of unique little statues. And I meant to send another one where there was a little child holding an umbrella.
Oh.
They have some children that are buried here. Mm-hmm. but the cemetery is also well known for its flower designs.
Oh yeah.
Have a whole avenue of cherry blossoms, and they've got these flowering. This was taken in the late fall.
Mm-hmm.
These are flowering. These are flowering grasses from the late fall. They've got giant tulip gardens. It's a very popular place, especially in the springtime. But they're
Yeah.
very unique looking graves, and I keep promising you that when you get up here, we'll take you to go see it.
Oh, I want to go. I've been admiring the photos that you share online from the cemetery in Lexington. It looks like it's a garden cemetery, and you know those old garden cemeteries, they would actually, some of them, when you bought a plot, they would give you a planting guide of different ideas for flowers to put in your plot.
Mm-hmm.
And there are a lot of these garden cemeteries, which came about in the 1830s and on, usually near bigger cities like that. But they actually have achieved arboretum status. And they have, you know, they're like living libraries with some really old plants and heritage plants that you might not see elsewhere, like roses that actually smell. Not like the ones you get out of a catalog now. Things like that. So I would love to come see those.
I think the Lexington Cemetery would fit that mold.
Yeah.
And then, of course, we got the Frankfurt Cemetery, which I didn't send you pictures of, but that's where Daniel Boone is buried.
Oh, really? Oh, wow. Oh,
so
neat.
We've got some nice old cemeteries in Kentucky.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, definitely next time I do a road trip. Okay, I loved this one because
Oh yes, the good old Frank L. White one.
here I'll get a bigger picture so people.
I think that people that see that will know exactly what it is. It's
I love
a picture of
cream
the
of wheat.
guy on the cream of wheat box,
Uh-huh.
and his name was Frank L. Wright or Frank L. White. And this particular grave marker, Frank was buried in Michigan, and this is it's Woodlawn. It's the Woodlawn Cemetery in Leslie, Michigan.
Oh.
And I specifically went there to go find this one.
Oh, yeah, I would do that for sure.
Well, you know, I use the website roadsideamerica.com. I'm actually a contributor to them as well. But
That's a great site.
When I go somewhere, I'm always looking at Roadside America to see if there's anything else of interest to me that's close by. And they have a great app, and I just click, I click on the location, and it'll tell me all the places, you know, within 100 miles of where I'm at that I'm unique to see. And if Doug Kirby's listening, hello, Doug. He's with Roadside America. But I got this.
That is a great website. Roadside America and Find a Grave are just gold for finding interesting places to visit.
Yep. Well, I decided to take the little detour to go here just to find this, and it was actually very, very well defined on how to get there. And
that's cool because it can be tough sometimes. I've run all around. Just sometimes it's sheer luck that I end up finding them.
But the fact that it had the picture, you know, from the cream of wheat box really made it special. So. But
I noticed that doesn't say when he was born. So I imagine, wow, what if he just didn't actually know his own birth date, or what the records were like? It's just it's interesting when, you know, something like that. Obviously they knew when he died, but yeah, so they didn't have a clear, who knows what his early life was like. But,
yeah, really. I have no idea.
Mm-hmm. Well, now this next one is from Hugo, Oklahoma. I know that.
Yeah, in fact, I think you went to Hugo because I suggested you go to Hugo. Hugo is an interesting place, and it's one of those that I hit. Once again, I found it mentioned on Roadside America, and I was heading through the southeast corner of Oklahoma, so I figured I'd swing by Hugo. And the town, if you drive around the town, they've got elephants. It was a circus town.
Yeah, they have a sanctuary for retired elephants. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but they also had a sanctuary. A lot of circus people went and retired there together. Mm-hmm. And
they would also just spend the winters there, even when they were performing. There's actually, I think, 3 still in town, 3 circuses that still winter over there.
But the unique thing about this one is it's got this large section of the cemetery totally devoted to circus performers. And
Yeah, it's great. It's called Showman's Rest when they
yes,
do that. There's a few
exactly.
Showman's Rest. I've been to the Showman's Rest in Miami. I've been to a couple other ones, but this one's the best Showman's Rest I've ever seen.
And the grave markers are so unique. There's, many of them have been shown to, what that particular performer did, a tightrope walker or
Yeah, you got one here, the acrobat and clown.
acrobat.
I've seen clown noses. People left clown noses on, instead of seashells and rocks and other stuff, as grave goods, they left. I was like, what is that red rubber thing? And then I realized, oh my gosh, that is a clown nose.
Yes. And so I found it fascinating to walk through there. And I probably took 90 or so photographs when I was there. It was a really unique place. And on another side of the cemetery, which I didn't go to because I didn't have time, they also have a special one for cowboys and wranglers.
Yeah, the rodeo side. That's right.
There's a rodeo side in that same cemetery. And
Yeah.
so they're really focused on a lot of performance type things. And so it's really a unique place to go. Hugo's a cute little town. They've got a couple of
Got that circus themed diner. I love, you got to check that out. The Marlboro Man, one of the Marlboro men was from there, so his photo was in the diner. It's like you got to go to the train depot there. Yeah, it is a neat little place.
Yeah, there's just lots of little things to see in Hugo besides the cemetery. It's a cool little off the beaten path type of little place.
It's a really fun place to visit. And I'm working on trying to get a guest to come on who can tell us all about the Showman's Rest, because there's a lot of interesting history behind that. So hopefully everybody down the line, I'll tighten that up and get that person on here.
As I would say, if you go, Hugo. Go to Hugo.
Now, just a little bit south of Hugo, we get to Paris, Texas. Ooh la la, Paris, Texas, where we have this wonderful monument.
Paris is the home of the Evergreen Cemetery.
It's huge.
And this is one that I visited. I always went to Paris because of the Eiffel Tower in Paris.
I should have put a picture of that. My first book, I have on the front cover, I have a picture of the Paris Eiffel Tower, and it actually has a red cowboy hat on it. I didn't think of that. I should have shared that.
And I did a really nice blog post a couple years ago with Paris, Texas versus Paris, Tennessee.
Oh, yeah. Oh, interesting.
They have competing Eiffel Towers.
Yeah. Now, the Texas one is supposedly 5 feet higher, from what I read.
That's after they put the cowboy hat on.
Yeah, the hat helped.
But we went to.
Oh, here we go. Look at this. Hugo just got on my bucket list. Yes, you definitely have to go. It is so much fun, Stephen. You will love it.
So we went to. I actually went here because I had seen about it in your book.
Oh, that makes me feel good. My book, Unexpected Texas. It was my first book. Yeah.
Right. I was going through there when I was in Texas and just reading through, and then I saw this, and I said, "Well, I got to go see that. Really see if he's got cowboy boots."
Yeah, let's explain. The reason it's so cool, this is Willett Babcock's monument, and he commissioned it himself, and you can't quite tell in that first photo. And nor, when you look at it like this, it's just a typical mourning angel, very Victorian motif, nothing too unusual yet, and clinging to the cross. But what? Look at the footwear, people. He's got cowboy boots on. And what I got to say, I've heard a lot of theories about it. And finally, for my most recent book, I wrote about it in 6 Feet Under, Texas. I did learn that Willett Babcock, he commissioned this monument himself, and he was known for his jolly laugh and a really great sense of humor. He loved the opera. In fact, the first opera house was above his furniture store that he had, where he was also a coffin builder. Anyway, just had to say. So I love it, though. Go ahead, David.
This was one of the more unique places. If you're driving down through Paris, Texas, you really should just swing by to go see this. There's a few other interesting monuments.
There really are. If you like historic cemeteries, you're going to love Evergreen.
Yep, it's got some unique places. But this one tops them all.
Yeah, this one's the best. It's so Texan. I mean, that was very forward thinking of him to do that. I love it.
It was. Yep, it was fun.
He's one of those people, when you're studying history, who you meet these historic figures and you just wish you could have met them in person. So it's nice that they have some sort of legacy that keeps us thinking about them. Oh, well, what do we have next? I don't even remember. Oh, story. What's the story behind this one, David?
Well, I actually took this one a couple of weeks ago. My wife is a hiker, and she's been hiking the Sheltowee Trace. Sheltowee was the name that the Indians gave Daniel Boone.
Sheltowee?
Sheltowee. Which
I
means,
never heard that. Oh, it means what?
Turtle. And
I'm sorry, I cut out. It means what?
Turtle.
Turtle. Oh.
And so the Sheltowee Trace goes from basically Big South Fork National Recreation Area in northern Tennessee and cuts across through Kentucky all the way to Moorhead, Kentucky. It's about 350 miles. And my wife is on the Sheltowee Trace Challenge, and she's going there. And I provide support. So while I drop them off at these trails, I mean, it's like the Appalachian Trail. It's a pretty heavy.
Wow.
There's tough places to hike, and they hike.
That's good. They got backup.
20 to 30 miles on a weekend every month to get through the whole thing. Well, I was driving through the town of Oneida, Tennessee, or Oneida, like the watch.
Oneida, like that. Is what I'm guessing. But
and
I don't know.
I was heading towards Big South Fork National River and Recreation Area, and just happened to pass by this, and so I stopped. I turned around and came back and took a picture. It kind of goes along with my other stories. I've got a nice picture of Story, Indiana, and there's actually a story about Story, Indiana, and they've got a really cool old inn called the Story Inn and Restaurant. And it's one of those places you have to drive a long way out of your way to get to, but it was worth it.
Definitely.
But so Story obviously isn't spelled correct. It's probably named after somebody with the last name Story, but it's still got. I'm sure there's a story behind Story.
Yeah. All right. Now this next one, I can see it's a Union military marker, but I can't tell much more about it.
Well, this is a shot that I took many years ago on my first visit. I've been there 4 times now. And this is at Little Bighorn National Park, or National Monument, I guess it is. And
is that Montana?
Yes, it's in southeastern Montana.
Okay, wow.
And this is where the Battle of Little Bighorn took place. And this is also where Custer's last stand was.
Oh, we're getting here. Someone's just telling us it's pronounced Oneida, I think.
Oneida.
Is it? I think. Is that? Unless we got it wrong, let us know, Penny, and thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Penny. So obviously, it's a national park, and I went there again with my grandchildren here about 1 year.
Yeah, we'll talk about that later. Definitely, I want to talk about that.
A year ago.
Okay.
But anyways, the one in black in the very middle, that's General George Custer's marker, and that is the exact
blacked out.
That's the exact location he died. Every one of these markers has been put where those soldiers died.
That's really unusual.
Other part of the park, they've also got, even in this park, this section here, they have markers for the Native Americans that were killed there as well.
Wow.
And they've got a giant monument in the middle with a number of other names, and they've got across the road another monument just for the Native Americans.
Yeah.
And great video and things, but this was just unique because this is the actual location where Custer's last stand was, and this is where he last stood.
I don't know off the top of my head. I can't think of any other people who are buried right where they fell. That have an enduring monument like.
Yeah, I don't know if he was.
That's quite interesting.
Buried. I don't think he was actually buried there.
Oh, I see. But there's something. So it's like a cenotaph for him.
They may have been buried in the National Cemetery. From this point here, if you turn around if you're looking at that and you turn around 180 degrees and look out towards the west, there's a large national cemetery like the many others with the white.
Oh, I see. So this is maybe a cenotaph and just to mark. But I like the fact that it marks where they fell because that really, I think, one reason I like historic cemeteries is I feel they bring history to life for me in a way that other things don't. And I think this would really bring the battle, like, wow, the reality of that. And
it does.
Horrific war and all that. But
when you're actually walking through there and you see all these, you see the names and you see whether they're privates or corporals or whatever, it has all that information.
Wow.
It was quite a battle. And
yeah, my goodness.
Definitely worth the visit if you ever get up to southeastern Montana.
Yeah, it could happen. I was born in Montana. You never know. I love this photo. I should mention to people that you are just a really tremendous photographer. You just take lovely photos, and I love cherubs. This is just a sweet little cherub. Where was this?
This is another one from Lexington Cemetery.
Oh, yes, I'm going to have to visit when I can travel again. Honestly, I was planning earlier this year to do a big old cemetery tour, but obviously those plans didn't happen, and I was going to hopefully come by and see you. But yeah, that is really, so that's in Lexington, Kentucky.
Yep.
Oh, and it's got the little upside down torch. Willett Babcock, I should have showed you. He had upside down torches on his monument as well, the Jesus in cowboy boots. And that stands for eternal life because the Victorians like to turn things upside down to symbolize the upside down of death. But then the fact that, even though it's upside down, it's still flaming. So it's eternal life.
I didn't know that. I learned something new today.
Well, I like to point that out because even when I was first learning about Jesus in cowboy boots, I read on some forum people were saying, oh, the upside down torches, that's like a satanic symbol, or it means he was an atheist, or all these ridiculous things where it's actually, it's a very much a Christian symbol, and it's a Victorian symbol, and it's nothing creepy in that regard. It stands for eternal life.
Can notice on the comments here, Debbie McWaters said that Custer is buried at West Point, which I think.
Oh, I see. Oh, hey, thanks, Debbie. That's nice. Oh, okay. Well, there are a lot of cemeteries I would love to see in New York. That's for sure. So many cemeteries, so little time. And here's another. Is this? I'm guessing. I'm just gonna go on a limb here. Lexington.
They have, and I sent this one because they have a lot of graves from the 1700s.
Oh wow! Yeah.
And some of them you can't even read anymore. They have a lot of them from the 1700s and early 1800s.
You got a lot of history back. Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, Kentucky was one of the original areas. A Commonwealth, and everybody. I mean, Daniel Boone.
You live there.
And so everybody else did too.
Yeah, that is really. But people, you need to check out David's photography. He really. You can start off. Let me put here you can go to his website. That's a good place. But check him out on. He takes all sorts of beautiful photos. But let's just move along here. I am going to talk. Have you tell us a little bit about your books. You mentioned this one already. I believe this was your first, right? I nagged you a lot. You finally wrote a book. I think you would anyway.
Yeah, you were one of my inspirations, but I wrote a lot of dog stuff, and people kept saying, why don't you write a book so I can carry something with me in my Airstream trailer?
Yeah.
And so I just finally broke down and wrote this first book just as a trial run, just to see how it would do. Pictures are in black and white, and it's basically just pictures.
Very nice, though. I love it.
Pictures of names of towns. The cover artwork was done by my good friend, the musician Ancy McLean. You can look him up at unhitched.com. He's an artist. He's a graphic artist, but he's also a very talented musician. He's got about 25 albums up. But this book here is just about unique town names like Tightwad, Missouri, and Uncertain, Texas, and Boring, Oregon, Odd, West Virginia, little places like that. And I only write about places I've been. So there may be many, many other towns out there, and you're saying, well, why didn't you include this one? And Well, I didn't include it in my book because I haven't been there yet.
I love that about your stuff. You're very much you don't just sit there and look at the internet for your research. You actually are very much engaged in your research. You do a lot of in-person research, and that's just I think that's wonderful. So you wrote that book. It was wonderful. So hello, the book of the week, as I showed people earlier, your quirky and offbeat roadside attractions. I love this one.
And did you notice the cover very carefully?
Yes, you are on the Muffler Man guy there.
That's not Muffler Man.
That's Paul
That's
Bunyan.
Paul Bunyan.
Paul Bunyan.
That's the first Paul Bunyan. It was built in the 1930s up in Bemidji, Minnesota.
Oh, wow.
And I have a quick little anecdotal story about that.
Oh, for sure.
It's in the first chapter of this book. When I was like 7 or 8 years old and we were living in Albuquerque, we had gotten this book. It was all black and white photos. It was a Time Life book, kind of.
Oh, yeah, I love those. Mm-hmm.
And, it was one picture for every state. And as I was going through the book, I saw this picture of Paul Bunyan and the big ox. And I told my mom and dad, someday I'm going to go see that. And that was actually the thing that really kicked my wanderlust into gear. I wanted to go see that. And of course, I finally got up there about 5 years ago to Bemidji to go see it. Mm-hmm. And when I went to the visitor center, I had told the gal at the visitor center all about how I'd seen this in this Life book. And she pulls out a Life magazine from 1946 or something like that. Uh-huh. With the original photograph that I had. Oh my
gosh.
And
yeah.
And so in my book, I think I have a picture of that.
Oh, wow. That's really cool. Well, now you mentioned a childhood memory, stirring your wanderlust and all that. And you reminded me, okay, I'm just going to put us both on here for a second, because before the show began, we were talking about hats for a minute, because I was like, oh yeah, I didn't know, which hat. I was actually going to wear a different hat, but whatever. And you said you wore a particular hat for the show, but you've got The Thing. I don't know if anybody watching knows what The Thing is, or if you've ever been to see The Thing, but it's in New Mexico. Oh, isn't it? Where is it?
Arizona.
Oh, Arizona. Sorry. That's why I've never seen it. Oh, no wonder. Because they advertise it for quite a while.
Oh, yeah. The signs are all the way across New Mexico. And
now this explains it. Because when I was a little kid, my grandma lived in Artesia, New Mexico. And as we would be driving from Virginia, long drives, and I'd be seeing billboard after billboard after billboard. I'm like, can we see The Thing? Can we see The Thing? They're like, not this time. So what is The Thing?
Well, The Thing is just, it's a tourist trap.
Hey, shocker.
I say tourist trap.
Lovingly.
Positive, lovingly.
Yes, exactly.
I like to visit tourist traps.
I do too.
You got The Thing in Arizona. You've got one of my other really famous ones is in Missouri. Mm-hmm. They make fudge, and it's called the Uranus Fudge Factory.
Oh, yeah. Uh-huh.
And gift shop, and they claim that the best fudge comes from Uranus.
Yes. My goodness, you heard it here, folks.
Great place. And Louis, if you're listening to this, Louis Keene is the mayor of Uranus.
Oh, my.
If you're listening to this, there's your shout out, buddy. But then there's the really famous one up there in South Dakota, Wall Drug.
Oh, yeah, Wall Drug. Okay, I've been to Wall Drug. Mm-hmm.
And when I was growing up, people would have bumper stickers on the back that said, "Where the hell is Wall Drug?" Now you go there, you can't buy any of those. They only have "Where the heck is Wall Drug?"
Oh, isn't that something? Wow. So there's sort of like the naughty ones are.
But, I've been to Wall Drug, and there's a number of them. There's some I've not been to, but those are fun. And I should cover some of those in my third book. The second.
Oh, yeah, we're getting on to your third book here.
The second book actually covers mainly just one-off unique places all over the country.
So here people want to take a look at his third book.
The third book, I included my young picture as a wanderlust picture, as a young kid. That's me as a young kid, and if you don't have a picture of it here, but let's see here. If you look on the back side, I took a similar picture.
Oh, I see. I did not connect the dots on that. Wow, very clever.
Can you blow that up, or can they see that okay?
Let me see if I think if I go like this, I can see it.
Yeah,
There.
there we go.
Okay.
So I tried to make a picture that looked similar to me as a kid back
I
then.
love that. I think that is really great. How
And
clever. How clever. That is really good. So you've got those 3 books out, but now I understand you are working on a 4th. Please tell us about it. I'm very excited about this one. It has an interesting title, 8154, or do you want to say 8154? How shall we pronounce that, and what does it mean?
I just call it 8154.
Okay.
As I had mentioned earlier, I took a road trip back, literally left 1 year ago yesterday. And
Oh, wow.
we drove 3 weeks and drove from the time I left my driveway.
And you saw me on your way home.
Yep, we did. Time I drove my driveway to the time I got back to my driveway 3.5 weeks later, the odometer was 8,154 miles.
Woo.
I traveled with my daughter and my 3 grandkids, and we visited 9 national parks and a few state parks, and we drove all the way from Kentucky up through Missouri and then Nebraska. We went to Carhenge in Nebraska, which is covered in my 3rd book.
Mm-hmm.
We went from there up to straight up to South Dakota and went to Custer to go see the buffalo. And then we went up to Mount Rushmore and then drove across through Wyoming and then up to Montana and Idaho, Washington, blah, blah, blah. My daughter lives up in Port Orchard, Washington, which you know well. And then we drove all the way down the Pacific coast, just a little bit south of where the Hearst Castle is. And then we cut across south through the Mojave Desert, and then drove we didn't go to the Joshua Tree National Park, but we drove the Joshua Tree Highway, which is in Nevada. And drove across there to Searchlight, Nevada, and then down to Arizona, the Grand Canyon, and then came across some Route 66 stuff in Arizona and New Mexico after the Grand Canyon, and eventually made our way back. And of course, on the way, we stopped in Uncertain, Texas, and met a certain couple from Azle, Texas.
Yes.
Namely our kind host here and her husband, Larry, and we took a cruise together with Aaron Applebaum.
That was so fun.
Who is runs a great cruise there at Lake Caddo in Uncertain, Texas. And hello, Aaron, if you're listening. If you're not listening, that's fine.
It's
and
so
Aaron,
beautiful. Caddo Lake is beautiful. Those cypress trees, and oh my goodness, it was really neat. And he gave us such a great tour. Thanks for arranging that. It was wonderful.
But we had a great time, and so this book here, the 4th one, and I'm almost done with it.
Oh, okay. Woohoo.
All full color pictures, but rather than being like the other ones, it covers the road trip, and every chapter is basically numbered by the number of miles we did that particular day.
Oh.
And it says, from where to where, and it goes through that. The first 2 chapters of the book actually tell how I plan my long road trips, some of the things I do, and then the 2nd chapter basically covers how you would plan a road trip to carry 3 young grandchildren along for 3.5.
Yeah.
Other things you would need to do. But then from then on, I just cover the things that I went to in order, and it was a lot more fun that way.
Yeah, I find that with writing books, it's kind of a little overwhelming at first, but once I get some sort of structure it sort of falls into a rhythm because,
Yep.
part of you wants to write it all at once. Obviously, we can't do that. So once you realize, oh, this is what will make it helpful to people. So now
the challenge with this particular book is I don't know exactly how many pages it is yet.
Yeah.
I try to keep my books at a certain number of pages because I do them through Amazon Publishing.
Yeah.
I don't want my books to be over $25. It's really interesting. I can have a book that's really big and it's going to be for $50 and nobody will buy it. I can take the same book and cut it into 2 books and people will buy both books. I
I know
still,
that's a thing. That is a real thing. And there are people actually, just to talk publishing for a minute, I know people who have had big, before self publishing, they used to write really big books, and now they break them into trilogies. And they can give the first one away that way and then get people hooked and they'll buy the next two. So, hey, whatever. Oh, let's see here. La da da da. We've got a question. I did ask people for questions. Not to sound too mercenary, but do your site and books offset much of your travel costs?
not really. Most of my travel costs, I try to keep them down anyway, but no, they don't really cover them. My books are not humongous sellers. I mean, they've done okay,
They
and
should be. Tell your friends, people.
I would love them to be, but
We'll do more shows. Get the word out for you. That's
the
my
real
threat.
key for me with my books is that I like to be able to provide information to people in a unique format that they're not that they can go see these places. There's so many unique places in our own country, and the books that I write, maybe it'll open the doors for some people that haven't seen some of these places or heard of them even. And I don't write them to make money as much as I write them out of the joy of being able to share my travels and the uniqueness of our country with
Yeah, it
everybody.
really
And that's
is
the same with
nice.
my blog.
Mhm. Yeah, you obviously are out to inspire and inform and entertain, and that's what I like about your blog and your books is that they make you feel good. They're nice. You can you turn to your stuff when you want to have your spirits lifted. Even the hashtags that I see you use, like choose happy and things like that. You're a very positive person, and you're out to spread your positivity through it, pointing out to people that hey, you can do these fun things and explore America or the world wherever you are around and really enjoy yourself. And so I really connect with your travel. It's a big reason I go to cemeteries, but your travel philosophy, shall we say, I really connect with that, and I admire it. And I think it's wonderful.
Did I not send you a picture of the Happy Cemetery?
I don't think I got
Oh,
it.
no,
Bummer.
I should have
How
sent
did
that to you. Happy Texas.
Happy Texas. I need to go there, people. Happy Texas.
Happy Texas has a happy cemetery.
Oh, here's someone's just saying thank you. I'm so enjoying seeing all of your pictures. Thank you for sharing with us. So people are appreciating you,
Thank you,
David.
Cerise. Appreciate it.
Yay! I want to share.
And to answer
Oh,
Debbie's
here's
question,
something.
is
Oh,
there any place on your bucket list?
question. Yeah. Oops. Oh, sorry. Hit the wrong button. I was trying to hit the solo button. Okay, now we go. I'm getting used to this.
I actually, my real live, I've got lots of little bucket list items, but my real live number one bucket list would be to drive from Kentucky all the way up to Alaska via Alberta and then come all the way back down through British Columbia and then come across back through the central United States. I mean, I've been in all 50 states. I've not driven in Alaska, but I would love to be able to just take that long drive. Thank you, Stephen. So that's my big bucket list, but there's always lots of little bucket lists. I'd like to hit all the national parks. I've been up to the northeastern United States. I spent a total of 2 minutes in Vermont, just being able to take a picture of Vermont, which was the 50th state for me. Was one small little corner, but I would love to go up to New England and spend 2 or 3 weeks up in New England, just driving around there. And
Oh,
I've
yeah.
been to Florida twice. I'd like to actually go all the way down US Highway 1 through South Carolina and Florida and go see some of those. So I have bucket list items, and I just take them when I can take them. If money is a thing and time is a thing, I still work full time, and fortunately I work from home and I'm able to take my trusty little laptop with me. But it's a good question. I've always got a bucket list, and but the real thing about me is no matter where I go. So I take my wife on a hike, and she goes hiking for 2 days and hiking 30 miles through the wilderness. I'm finding all the back roads, the little dirt forest roads, and I'll drive down those. I didn't send a picture to you Tui,
I want to
which
go
I
to
wanted
Canada
to
too.
send one, but I think I've actually sent it to you
Oh,
in a separate thing. I was driving down a small little narrow road in the middle of nowhere, Kentucky. And I mean, literally, the
yeah.
road is so narrow, only one car can go down it.
Oh, yeah. Larry and I end up on those sometimes.
I was coming back up the road one day,
Hmm.
and something caught my eye, and it was an old tombstone.
Oh,
And I drove by that probably 8 or 9 times before I had the right light that I could actually see the name and everything on it. And I finally
yeah.
have that. And I posted it up on my Facebook page. But
Hmm.
it's a really, you never know where you're going to run into. There wasn't a graveyard or cemetery there. There was
Yeah.
one
Those little family cemeteries and
little
so forth. Yeah, customary
grave mound.
cemeteries. Sure. Well, I want to remind everybody you can find David's books at Amazon.com. You need to go check out lessbeatenpaths.com. And before we wind down the show, because we've hit the top of the hour already, I can't believe it, I do want to mention next week's guest real quick. We have Kathy Benjamin coming, who she is a writer and editor at grunge.com. She used to write for cracked.com and Mental Floss. She wrote a book called Funerals to Die For, the craziest, creepiest, and most bizarre funeral traditions and practices ever. So she'll be talking about that book and another book that she has in the works. So it seems like we've kind of got the quirky cemetery theme happening these last couple of weeks, because I think it'll kind of dovetail right in with with our chat with David. And once again, if anyone has any more questions, shout them out now. We're winding down. I've really enjoyed chatting with you. The time zipped by. Of course, I knew it would, David, and I want to thank you so much. Let me see. Is anyone? I don't see any other questions, so I'm gonna say goodbye, everybody. Remember to like and subscribe this channel. We're on YouTube because I can use that. It makes me feel good. I love it. It's like, yay, someone liked it. So yeah, thank you, everyone. Enjoy. And if you want to be on the show or you have photos, remember to sign up for my newsletter. And take care. And well, bye, everybody.
Thanks, Tui. It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, thanks everybody who came and had questions for you. It was very interactive. Bye, guys.